Welcome to NVC Life. I'm Rachelle Lamb, veteran NVC trainer and relationship coach, helping listeners navigate interpersonal conflict and ground more deeply into relational living. Greetings, fellow humans. In this episode, I share a clip from an interview I had with Marlisa Hollins 2 months ago, where we discuss selfishness and also explore a challenging conversation in a couple's relationship.
I had an upbringing that wasn't aware or used compassionate conversation, let's call it that. And so I wondered if you could give an example of perhaps just like some thoughts we can think, or even some phrases we could use if we find ourselves in a situation where we want to fall back into that old pattern of blame or criticizing. What can we do to be curious instead?
One of the things I really appreciated when I met Marshall Rosenberg over 20 years ago was something that he said. He said a lot of powerful things, but here's one that I will just share right now. He said, all judgments are tragic expressions of unmet needs. That really struck home when I fully understood what he was speaking about, because the habit is you see something you don't like and you move straight into judgment. You point your finger, hey, you didn't do that right. You're manipulative, you're controlling, you're selfish. But if you really pay attention to that, you hear the underlying need in each one of these expressions. The only thing is now you're pushing away instead of drawing towards you. So instead of saying, hey, you're being really selfish right now, the better way to say that is to, first of all, recognize what is your underlying need as you describe another person as selfish. You have a need to trust probably that other people are being taken into consideration. And perhaps in this situation, it's yourself you're talking about. I have a need to know that I matter and that what I have to say or think is going to be considered by you. Now, can you see how you are going to be in a completely different place if you initiate a conversation by saying, you're so selfish. I can't believe you're doing that. Instead, you can say, wow, I'm feeling some frustration right now because I have a need to know that I can be taken into consideration with respect to what's happening. I'm wondering if you could tell me what you're hearing me say. Now, I wouldn't go so far as to say that, hey, if you speak that way, that all of a sudden the other person will look at you and say, you got a point there. And I really love the way you're speaking to me right now, and I'm going to do whatever you ask. No, that's not what's going to happen. There's a good chance you'll get some pushback, but at least you're getting to something here that is central and core to this idea of selfishness. What we want to know is, or trust, is that everybody's needs matter, that we do have a need for consideration. When others proceed around us in a manner that doesn't convey that to us, we get upset. We use the language, you're selfish, and we further push the person away, and we don't really address the behavior. I don't know if that's helpful.
Absolutely. I see myself, and I can see so many of our listeners that would be in this situation with their partners or their kids, like the people that are closest with them. And I just want to use an example that maybe people could understand. Say your partner is going out with their friends on Friday night, and you're going to be at home with the kids on your own with the dishes and the baths and the bedtimes and all the things. And that would come up. You're being so selfish. And in that moment, wondering, what am I feeling? Why am I feeling this person's being selfish? And it could be, they're taking self-care. They're going out with their friends. So the message is, I want to go out with my friends. Or they're taking a night off and having their autonomy as a person. Maybe the message is, I want to take the night off and have my own autonomy. Like how to slightly redirect it back to your need. Because sometimes we don't know we have the need. We just project the anger. But it's really good if you can find the need that's not being filled for you.
I'm wondering, do you want me to look at that particular scenario where the partner is going out on Friday night?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it would be helpful.
Yeah, it definitely does bring up the selfish piece or the unfairness piece that would come up too. So we'll be having all sorts of judgments. The partner, I'm going to assume we're talking about a man right now. He gets to do whatever he wants. How come I'm the one who's burdened with the domestic life and he doesn't even think about me? So you can think about all of the judgments that you're going to have and internalize, and how this is going to begin to erode your relationship, and you'll have some seething resentment connected to it as well. So it's really good to do some internal work. Never speak from that place, because it will not help you. You've probably already done it before and know how it will go. And it will not bring you closer to each other or closer to yourself and what you really value. It would be important for me to just say right now, these scenarios that we're talking about, the partner goes out on the Friday night, and then there's one parent staying at home. This is a challenging scenario, and I would call it an incredibly unnatural one. We all recognize the wisdom of the sayings like it takes a village to raise a child. This is not what's happening in the scenario that you've just described. There's no village. There are two people who are doing their best to make up for the absence of what's not there. This particular circumstance shouldn't even happen, but it does. Okay. So first of all, I just want us to recognize that it's not a fault finding mission. It's recognizing the enormous poverty of the environment that's created by us in our history. Okay. So there's that piece there. Now, humble yourself a little bit around this. Whose right is it anyway to go out? I don't know, but it's set up that way. So he's going to go out. You probably just feel enormous exhaustion underneath all the layers that we're talking about here. It is exhausting to care for life. So you've got a few kids at home. You're tired. It's Friday. You're probably too tired to go out and have fun anyway. Sometimes it gets to that point. And so you recognize the level of fatigue that's there. And do you want to be depriving another human being of having a breakaway from the tedious life that they're also tethered to? Or there's a lot of questions that you have to mull over before you're going to open your mouth. And first of all, I need to know, what would you want to say? Give me a line so that I can translate it.
Sure. And I just have to preface, I love your wisdom of the whole story to this, because we're usually coming from our immediate place and not the whole. And how you come from compassion from all these different scenarios that's part of your beauty and your wisdom that I love that you bring to your work. And I would say that I'm very good at this role of feeling like I get the short end of the stick sometimes. So I'll use myself. I would say something like, I would be exhausted. I would feel like I do a lot of the domestic stuff and work. And I feel like, actually, I thought I was going to hang out with my partner on Friday. I thought that they were going to be there. And so I come with all these thoughts to someone saying, oh, the guys called and I'm going to go out with them tonight for a couple of hours, with a comment like, you don't mind, do you? And then I would have all of those thoughts rush in. And in my mind, I would be thinking something like, of course I mind, but I'm not going to say that. So then I would say something probably honest, and I'm going to be honest, I'd probably say something with a little bit of passive aggressiveness, like, nope, you go enjoy yourself, or something like that.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go back to the point where my partner says, you don't mind, do you? And I would probably be saying something like, I would be lying to you if I said I didn't.
Yeah.
I was really looking forward to an evening with you. I'm not saying this to try to make you feel guilty, so please don't hear it in that way. I'm really exhausted, and the thought of spending the evening with you was going to be a highlight of my day. And that's honestly what's going on for me. And I'm not going to be stopping you. So how do you feel hearing what I've just said?
I would feel the way that you said it. allowed intimacy to the conversation. It allowed someone to see you, your real feeling, instead of anger is not really, I mean, it's a feeling, but it's more of a reaction. It doesn't really describe where it came from, why, what you're telling yourself. It doesn't have the depth to it that really sharing your deeper feelings has for understanding.
Underneath anger, there's usually a lot of sadness or grief, and something is very important. The angrier a person is, the more you know how important that is. And the more a person needs empathy, the more likely they are to speak and behave in ways that make it hardest for us to give it to them. That was Marshall who said that. Let's just look at that scenario that you described. And I'm going to be the husband. And I am going to tell you about my plans to go out this evening. And I want to see if the way I tell you is going to make a difference to you. So it would mean I would attune myself to you and have some sense of what your days are like in order to do this. So it'd be, I just got an invite from one of my buddies to go and spend the evening with him. And I have said yes. And I'm going to guess that me saying yes might be hugely disappointing to you. And I want to check in with you about that. I'm guessing it's been, from what you told me about what was going on yesterday at home, I'm guessing it's been a really rough and full week for you. And that you probably were looking forward to either some time off, maybe you going out, or just us having a quiet evening alone. And yet I have said yes. I'm happy to expand about why I did. But I'm just wondering, I am thinking about you, and I'm wondering what plans we could make that would at least alleviate some of the burden that you're feeling, because we have the weekend coming up. I'd like to know what's going on for you.
As you're saying that, I feel immediately that because you understand how I feel and you've asked me what I think about that it's like, again, we're back in collaboration, we're back in relationship. Mm-hmm. And that's the whole idea of this conversation, that softening. It's like your shoulders soften, that is inviting. And so I would be much more willing to consider anything, whatever someone brought, if they brought it in that manner, inquisitive, yet concerned about how it may affect me and what do I think? Mm-hmm. Because I would say that piece is what the challenge is in relationship with people, is being your own person, yet being together. And that's really the key.
Being your own person and yet being together. A beautiful way to conclude this episode. Thank you for tuning into NVC Life. For future episodes, be sure to subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, or YouTube. For free resources or to book a private session with me, head over to RachelleLamb.com. Until the next time, stay sane, grateful, and generous.